In a world plagued with violence, unrest, and division, U.S. citizens feel a heightened need for physical protection. However, defining the best method for fulfilling this need has caused a divide between citizens. If we remove guns from the hands of citizens, how will we ensure their safety when they don't have the means to take care of themselves? Will we enable an authoritarian police state? Will we trust our lives to a large, heavily armed police force to keep us safe? Or will the public continue taking on the risk of ensuring their own physical safety?
Karen Samora, a reporter for the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, wants Minnesotans to know just how much gun ownership costs your community. According to a report titled, "Gun Violence Costs Minnesota $764 million Annually," stricter gun control will not only save you, it will also save you money. She opens with a quick reference to a report written by the bipartisan advocacy group arguing for stricter gun control measures. Statistics provided by the article added up the financial cost of gun violence. This includes pay given to government workers, the people who conduct criminal investigations, as well as the personnel who incarcerate and prosecute offenders. Other costs that are accounted for include property damage and medical bills paid by the victims and their families. However, Zamora's claim that taxpayers are responsible for the majority of the cost is false. For example, she speaks about a case of Chase Passar, a murder victim who was shot by the law office in Minneapolis in April of 2016. The total cost of the shooting that took his life was approximated to $7 million. The taxpayers paid only $2 million of that cost, less than a third of the total. Also, we must remember that even if there is no gun violence, all of these public servants, from the judges, police officers, prosecutors, investigators, and medical examiners, would still be employed and be performing other duties if this tragedy had not taken place. Gun violence is not the only crime seen by our society, so thinking as if $2 million would have not been otherwise spent would be wrong.
Zamora is quick to flash about her large, scary numbers to frighten non-gun-owning citizens to thinking that guns are a larger issue than they actually are. According to the CDC, cancer and heart disease occupy the places of first and second on a list of most common causes of death in Minnesota. To her benefit, the statistic that the average American spends $1,200 a year on fast food is not listed. Why is this important? Because when 70% of our population is overweight or obese, and 36% are obese, it is safe to assume that there is a direct correlation between the health of Americans and how much they spend on fast food. According to this estimation, in a year, Minnesotans will spend $6.5 billion on fast food. If Zamora was so concerned for writing on public safety, why wouldn't she mention the cost of fast food to Minnesotans? Why wouldn't she inform the public how much of their money is going down the drain due to their eating habits? The author's quickness to push hot-button issues and reach for the low-hanging fruit in order to pit citizens against each other would alarm the careful reader, regardless of political stance. The bottom line is, we all want Americans to be safe, so Justin and I took the liberty of compiling a list of things that we think America would be better off without.
Cars. It wasn't until earlier this year that people realized the terror potential that was carried by something as mundane as a car. On July 14, 2016, a man deliberately drove a cargo truck along sidewalks, running over crowds of people all along the way. 85 people were killed, 10 which were children, and over 200 more were injured. Nearly a year later, on April 7th, a rejected asylum seeker drove a truck that he hijacked into crowds along the renowned Queen Street in Stockholm. 5 people were killed in the attack and many more injured. More attacks have occurred over the past year, most prominently in London, Quebec, and at Ohio State University. In response to car attacks worldwide in the past year, Eva Franchell, a veteran journalist of the Aftonbladet newspaper, Sweden's best-selling newspaper, wrote that cars should be banned in the city to protect people. She rightfully stated that cars are easy to steal and that nothing has been able to stop their advance. Not only did cars make traveling less safe by killing over 33,000 people last year, according to the CDC, they also pollute our air, which each car dumping an estimated 5 pounds of emissions out of the tailpipe each year. It would be much safer if all Americans surrendered their cars. The scrap metal that would result from this could be melted down and used to create buses, trains, and bicycles for public transportation so that people could still get to work without their cars. Workers in the automotive industry would be given jobs that would assist in the transportation revolution. This would require little to no training to the transfer, since most of their jobs would be highly applicable to making buses, trains, bicycles.
Fast food, a cheap and convenient commodity of Americans. For years it has been a quick fix for hungry families on the go. However, despite the harmless intentions the pioneers of this industry had of their product being a treat or on-the-go meal when there was no time to cook, we must bring an end to fast food. Obesity has become an epidemic in our great nation, and we've decided the best way to reverse it is to stop eating fast food. The means of production for fast food should be immediately seized and destroyed. The workers for these corporations will be assigned to jobs produced by public works programs for the transportation revolution, and the CEOs and higher-ups of these corporations will be gulagged.
Guns. Why guns? A person may ask. It is because, according to the JFPO, Jews for Preservation of Gun Ownership, 62,000 gun deaths take place each year within our great nation. That's twice as many deaths as what are caused by car crashes. 60% are suicides, 3% are accidental, and 34% are estimated to be homicides. Who's to say that if a gun had not been available, over 32,000 people would not have killed themselves last year? Although many opponents of this stance argue that those who contemplate suicide will find a way, we think it is important to point out that a gunshot is the most common form of suicide in the US, and that even if eliminating that method as an option only lowers suicides by a little bit, it would be worth it. However, even that 60% did still commit suicide in some other fashion, we would still have 40% of people that died from gun violence last year. Because if no one had a gun, no one would actually have the capability or intention of inflicting harm on someone else. And if no one had a gun, there would be one less way to die from being neglected while participating in a risky activity or handling of a dangerous object. Mandatory buyback programs for firearms should be hosted by local police stations nationwide, and gun owners who do not comply will be hunted down and forced to surrender their firearms. The firearms will be melted down to create buses, trains, and bicycles, which will be in desperate need after the revolution. All the crappy tactical equipment on mall ninja guns will be given to children to put on their Nerf guns. All the remaining wood and polymer left over from this process will be devoted to a memorial, which will be dedicated to every American who has died from a gun. Workers in the firearm industry will be assigned to public work programs that will put their machine and woodworking skills to use. CEOs of large companies will be gulagged for their crimes against the American people.
Also, while we're at it, my partner and I have decided that water should be added to this list that we've created. Our reason? The simple fact that 100% of people exposed to water have died at some point, and that water is the sole culprit of drowning. If these arguments sound ridiculous to you, that probably means that you are a normal person who thinks that people's lives should not be run by an elite few who are out of touch with reality.